Hello, in this video I'm going to go through a few problems from practice problem set 2-1. In this practice problem set, we are classifying arguments according to whether they are sound or unsound. And for any that are unsound, we're stating everything about them that makes them unsound. Now, in your textbook in box 2A, you have definitions of valid argument and invalid argument, and then in box 2B, you have definitions of sound argument and unsound argument. And I've written those on the board behind me. I hope that you can see them here. For an argument to be sound, it has to be valid, and it has to have all true premises. I don't think I need to say anything more about the premises all being true. You know what that means. But the word valid is a technical concept within logic. Here's what it means for an argument to be valid. It means that, assuming the premises are true, it is impossible for the conclusion to be false. Now notice that we can assume things are true when we know they're false. We can assume things are true when we don't know one way or the other whether they're true or false. So the definition of valid argument does not imply that the premises of a valid argument are necessarily true. The actual truth or falsity, the actual truth values of an argument's premises are entirely separate from the logical relationship between the premises and the conclusion. And valid argument, that definition, is about that logical relationship. Assuming the premises are true, would that mean that there was no way in the world for the conclusion to be false? Well, if the answer to that question is yes, then we're looking at a valid argument. On the other hand, in an invalid argument, assuming the premises are true, it still is possible for the conclusion to be false. All right, now, I'm going to look at several from 2-1, as I said, and we're classifying these arguments again as according to whether they are sound or unsound. And for any that are unsound, we're going to state what makes them unsound. I'm starting with number 1, and I hope you're following along. I'm not going to write these all up on the board. Number 1 has two premises that say Nike makes shoes for all mammals and a cheetah is a mammal. And from those premises is drawn the conclusion that Nike makes shoes for cheetahs. Well, asking about soundness then means asking two things. Is the argument valid, and are all the premises true? I notice right away that the first premise is false. Nike does not make shoes for all mammals. As far as I know, Nike only makes shoes for human beings, not other kinds of mammals. And I certainly know that Nike does not make shoes for elephants or cheetahs or whatever. So premise 1 is false, which makes this argument unsound. Premise 2 is true. No problem with that. Let's think about validity of this argument. Assume that Nike does make shoes for all mammals. We know that's false, but I am asking you now to assume that something is true, even though you know it's false. So assume that Nike makes shoes for all mammals and that a cheetah is a mammal. If those were both true, the conclusion, Nike makes shoes for cheetahs, would also be true. It would have to be true. Otherwise, it would contradict the premises. So in terms of validity, number 1 is fine. However, the fact that it has a false premise, that is, premise number 1 is false, that fact makes number 1 unsound. Let me go now to number 2. One premise says the country of France is in Texas. Another says the country of Iran is in Nevada. And then the conclusion drawn from those premises is that Los Angeles is in California. Well, 1 and 2 are both false, therefore this is unsound. But it's also invalid, so we need to note that too. And here's a way to see that it's invalid. Assume for a moment that the country of France were in Texas and the country of Iran were in Nevada. Say those were true. If those were true, they wouldn't tell us anything at all about the location of Los Angeles. So even if 1 and 2 are true, it would be quite possible for 3 to be false. Therefore, this argument is invalid. Everything that could have gone wrong with an argument has gone wrong with this one. Both its premises are false and it is invalid. Therefore, unsound for every possible reason that could make an argument unsound. Going now to number 4. The premises here say that the Earth is a planet and Los Angeles is on the Earth. And from those premises, the conclusion is drawn that Los Angeles is on a planet. Notice that the premises are, in fact, true. The Earth is a planet and Los Angeles is on the Earth. Given the truth of those premises, it must also be true that Los Angeles is on a planet. So this is a valid argument that has all true premises. Therefore, number 4 is sound. I'm just going to do 2 more with you. That is number 5 and number 8. 5 says CSUN is a university and CSUN is in California. Therefore, all universities are in California. Well, I'm noticing here that the premises are in fact true. CSUN is a university and CSUN is in California. The conclusion, in fact, is false. It is not true that all universities are in California. This argument, in other words, it has the following combination of actual truth values, not something we're assuming to check for validity, but the premises are all true and the conclusion, in fact, is false. That is the one possible combination of actual truth values in an argument that the definition of validity rules out. In other words, 5, although the premises are true, is invalid, therefore it is unsound. Now let's look at number 8. Number 8 is very similar to 5 in one way, however, it's different from 5 in another way. In 8, the premises say only men have been U.S. presidents and Abraham Lincoln was a man. The conclusion is drawn that Abraham Lincoln was a U.S. president. Everything is true here, but that does not automatically make this argument sound. We have to think about validity. The premises say only men have been U.S. presidents and Abraham Lincoln was a man. Does the truth of those 2 premises mean that it would be impossible for Lincoln not to have been a U.S. president? Well, of course not. We do know that Abraham Lincoln was a U.S. president. However, these premises do not give us reason to believe that at all. No. If he had not been a president, in other words, if the conclusion were false, the premises could still be true. Therefore, this is invalid. Invalid meaning, again, assuming the premises are true, it is possible for the conclusion to be false. And that is not about whether the conclusion really is true or false. It's about the logical relationship between the premises and the conclusion. So 5 and 8 are alike in that they are both unsound because invalid, despite having all true premises. They are different from each other in that in 5 the conclusion is false, whereas in 8 the conclusion is true. But that's not a difference that means that these both means that 8 is valid. Okay, I hope that this has been helpful to you. For material having to do with the definitions of soundness and validity, it's, I think, important that you also be sure to study the multiple choice practice problems that I assigned for this week. They're about these concepts, and I hope will help to make these concepts clearer for you. Please let me know if you have any questions, if I can help you further with this material. So long for now. Bye-bye.